Start. Colleagues, it's great to welcome you at our third staff assembly. In the past, there was a debate on whether we should use the word assembly, but if I see how we assemble here in great numbers, it is perhaps a terminology that we can continue with. It's the one moment where we can gather, where we can assemble as colleagues at this university. Some of you are in the room and others are online from our other campuses and some online also here on the Stellenbosch campus. I Call You Colleagues is a title of a book that I would like to write when I'm old. I call you colleague. Colleague from the Latin words which says we are elected together and we are mandated together. As colleagues, we gather, and before we continue, let us for a moment observe some silence. We observe a moment of silence because we mourn the departure of students recently and staff members. And we observe a moment of silence to say we express sincere empathy with colleagues who mourn the departure of dear ones. So kom ons word vir 'n oomblik stil. Thank you, colleagues. Our program will be, as you see there, the rector will do the introduction to the current rectorate structure. The rector will share some outcomes and priorities of the recent Executive Planning Forum. The rector will also speak about financial risks associated with the NSFAS national crisis. And then the major part of our program and our togetherness here will be on questions and themes from staff that you had submitted, and also questions that we will table here during our time together. So I immediately hand over to our rector, Prof. Teresh Ramsugarnath.
Thank you very much, Nico. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see all of you, and I know that there was a lot of demand for tickets today for this gathering of all of our colleagues. And I want to say that we moved the venue, and so we had limited space this afternoon, but I think we will now have to take that into consideration, getting that more and more of our colleagues want to be able to share in this experience at a staff assembly, that we will look at venues that are more suitable in terms of larger numbers. But good to see all of you, and first of all, I want to say thank you very much. We've had a fairly smooth start to the second semester. We're about a month into the second semester. As you were walking to Jan Mouton, you would have seen there's a lot of activity on campus. Things seem to be working extremely well, and it's down to the work that you do. The work that you do to ensuring that we have a smooth operations and functioning at the university, and that we have a stable environment in which our students can really put their efforts into their studies. So I want to start by saying thank you very much. I greatly appreciate all that you've done in terms of ensuring that we've had a smooth start to the second academic semester and that we will have a smooth run on the entire second semester. Now, as Prof. Nico has shared with regards to the program for this afternoon, I want to give more time for questions. And we've had a lot of questions that have come in terms of the requests that went out. And I will provide a high-level response to the questions. But you would see, I've brought the entire rectorate team today because I want you to feel free to be able to ask any one of them a question. If you think there's things that we need to do better in the institution, if you want information, you want response, this is the team, the senior leadership team that serves the institution. And that's why we have all of them up over here. I'll answer as many of the kind of high-level questions and responses, but the details will be provided by each of the colleagues that are seated in front of you. But I think you would have heard over the last year and a bit that there's been a little bit of realignments that we've had taking place at Stellenbosch University. Some of the realignments have been in the executive portfolios. And so if you go to this slide that you see up there at the moment, that is what our executive portfolio currently looks like. So that's the rectorate portfolio at the moment. And I would like to use this opportunity. It's our Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, first staff assembly. So Professor Liesel van Dijk, I think you would have seen the announcement a few months ago, started on the 1st of July. And this new role that we have at the University of Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic. And it's a role that straddles not just undergraduate studies, but also the postgraduate component. And we are looking at the entire academic life cycle with regards to learning and teaching. And so that's the reason why we've renamed or shifted the portfolio into being DVC Academic, as opposed to the previous title of Deputy Vice Chancellor Learning and Teaching. Then I think everyone's familiar with Professor Sibusiso Moyo. Previously had the title of Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation. You'd see on the slide now there's another title on that, which is Internationalization. So as part of our realignments, we want to have a closer alignment between what we do as a university internationally, as well as our research agenda and innovation agenda. So we want to get that greater alignment. So it now all comes under this particular portfolio of DVC, Research, Innovation, and Internationalization. Our registrar, Dr. Ronelle Retief, I think you all are familiar with, but she's also taken on some additional responsibilities as well in the realignment. And there's student recruitment, strategic student recruitment that now also falls under her portfolio. And there's been some kind of rearrangements in terms of the way we do things from an operations point of view that she's also now taking on. All of this in terms of seeing how we work in a far more efficient and effective way within the institution. You would have seen that we have created just over a year ago, a new portfolio of Dean of Students. And it's because we really want to put the students at the center of what we do as an institution. We want to be a kind of a student-centered institution. And so Dr. Leslie van Rooy has been appointed, not so new anymore, in the role of Dean of Students. And this is now a rectorate level position within the institution. So previously you would have known that the senior director, as it was called before, of student affairs used to report into the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Learning and Teaching. But we wanted to prioritize students, we wanted to elevate the kind of initiatives that we do with regards to students in the institution and the kind of holistic way in which we look at support to our students for their success at Stellenbosch University. Professor Nico Koopman is wearing a new title, new hat. So you know that he was previously in the role of Deputy Vice Chancellor for Social Impact, Transformation and Personnel. As part of our strategy as an institution to really place our staff and our people at the forefront of all of our initiatives and our priorities as an institution, we've created a new RC, which is people, culture, and transformation. And that is headed up by now a Chief People Officer. And so Professor Nico Koopman is acting in the role of Chief People Officer. We are currently going through the senior appointments processes to appoint a substantive Chief People Officer. This is part of our drive to really take the issues around our staff and our people as an institution seriously. It's linked to culture, it's linked to transformation, it's linked to health and well-being. So these are the kind of holistic ways in which we want to look at the people issues within the institution. And then we've taken the old Chief Operating Officer Responsibility Center in the university and we split it into two responsibility centers, a Chief Operating Officer and a Chief Financial Officer. And Professor Nicola Smith is now acting in both those roles. And we are also in a senior appointments process to appoint a CFO and a COO. All three posts of CPO, CFO, and COO would come to council at the end of October, and we will then make an announcement from council at the end of October, and we are hoping to have all of these substantive appointments filled by end of the year, hopefully. So I think you can see from a structure point of view what we are trying to achieve in the institution. If we go to the next slide. I want to also brief you in terms of deliberations, decisions, outcomes that we've had as an institution. I think a lot of colleagues within the university in the past were not informed about these kind of high-level leadership events or meetings that take place in the institution. And what do we discuss at those meetings, and how does it in any way impact on you in terms of the work that you do in the institution and how you deliver? So as part of our strategic planning, but importantly implementation of our plans in the institution, on an annual cycle, we have rectorate strat sessions, we have institutional planning forum, we have a council strategy session, and we have the executive planning forum. And so the executive planning forum took place at the end of July this year. And at the executive planning forum, we talked a lot about how do we shift from all the work we did last year from developing the... Yep, there we go. In terms of developing the vision, developing the strategic plan 2026 to 2030, and then now moving into implementation. Because I think a lot of you, and it came out in a lot of the questions that were posed to the rectorate, is we've heard a lot about planning. How do we move to implementation? I want to see things happening in the institution now. So all of these challenges that we are facing within the institution show me that we are now doing things to improve them. And so I'll share a little bit about the discussions that we had at the Executive Planning Forum. And the Executive Planning Forum was really about saying, how do we move now to implementation, and how do we start to really address the kind of challenges and the problems that we face in the institution, ultimately working to us being more effective and more efficient in the way we do things in those organizations. So the first theme that we had was around organizing for impact. It's about getting all of our structures and processes right, getting consistency within the institution, and having discussions about what's the best way to work in terms of the RCs, the divisions, the faculties, and so forth, so that we really improve the effectiveness and efficiency within the institution on delivery to our staff, delivery to our students, and so forth. We also need to do things so that whatever interventions we take as an institution, we are able to monitor and measure and determine how impactful we are. So we want to develop a strong monitoring and evaluation framework within the institution, and we want to move as an institution from outputs to outcomes to impact. And that is in terms of operations, it's in terms of teaching and learning, it's in terms of the research and innovation agenda, and so forth. And we want to also understand that when we make interventions at the institution, we want to monitor it so that we have a good way of determining whether those interventions are good interventions or not, and to improve on them or to change them if need be within the organization. Third, I think, is artificial intelligence and the embracing of artificial intelligence and embedding of the utilization of artificial intelligence within the institution. Whether it's in enhancing our teaching and learning, whether it's enhancing and driving areas of research and innovation and societal impact, but also in terms of the operations of the institution. How do we improve the operations? How do we reduce the administrative burden within the institution so that we can focus on the human stuff, the human interaction more in the institution? And so we're looking at how we develop those kind of capabilities. We're looking at how we develop our people to be able to utilize artificial intelligence across the entire institution. In the administrative offices, in the faculties, even for our students, and to work in a kind of a shared, secured platform, and to kind of have the appropriate change management within the institution so that people feel secure in being able to adopt and utilize artificial intelligence, which enhances productivity, it enhances the efficiency and effectiveness within the institution. And then a fourth kind of broad theme was about strengthening our academic core as an institution, about the way we deepen a research-intensive culture at Stellenbosch University. I think you know in our vision, we want to be a research-intensive university that's leading in Africa and also wanting to be one of the world's globally leading universities. How do we invest in people and infrastructure to bring out the very best? And how do we link our teaching and learning and our research and innovation and also all that we do with our students closer to societal impact? Because when you talk about moving from outputs to outcomes to impact, it's how do we translate as a university ultimately into societal impact? That's what Vision 2040 is all about. Now, colleagues, I think many of you would have seen, if you open the newspapers, if you open social media, if you watch the news, there's this huge cloud over our heads at the moment, which is NSFAS. And as an institution, we've shared with you before that we are committed as an institution to supporting our students and especially our NSFAS students in their journeys, in their academic journeys at this institution. Unfortunately, the administrative challenges at NSFAS, the financial challenges at NSFAS, the unreliable partner that NSFAS has become makes it more and more challenging for us as a university. But I have to say, it's challenging for the higher education sector as a whole. Now, I don't want there being rumors going around in the institution about is the problems with NSFAS going to be impacting Stellenbosch University? It is. And it is quite significant. So I want you to hear it here. This is how we are exposed as an institution at this point in time. NSFAS has almost a 15 billion rand deficit for 2026. 15 billion rand deficit. It means that they are delaying payments to universities. They're delaying payments to TVETs. They owe Stellenbosch University just over 760 million rands. So I want to put that into perspective. If you go and look at our annual financial statements for 2025, our total turnover on the financial statements was about 10 billion rands. This is almost 8% of our turnover as an organization. So you can understand that this gap that we have in our finances creates cash flow challenges for the university. I have to say, it's creating cash flow challenges for all universities in the country at the moment. And we are engaging with the minister, we are engaging with the Minister of Finance, we are engaging through all the channels that are open to us to be able to find a way to resolve this particular issue. Ultimately, our responsibility as leaders of this university is to ensure that there is sustainability of this institution. Now, I'll talk about sustainability holistically for the institution. We do know that some universities are really finding some serious challenges at this point in time. The monies that are owed to the university go back to monies that should have been paid to the university from 2017. So it goes back many years in terms of funding that hasn't been paid across. We have taken a decision as a university to continue to pay the allowances for our NSFAS students. Even though we're not receiving money from NSFAS, we cannot afford to further create challenges for our students, our NSFAS students, and so we've taken the responsibility of paying those allowances and some of those reimbursements to assist our students. But I think, so what I'm saying ultimately is that the monies have been delayed in coming to the university. They probably will be delayed even further. So it's not like the problem is going to go away. It's going to be with us for some time until someone in government takes on the responsibility of really finding a solution, and there's real will to do something with regards to the funding model which is currently at NSFAS. Colleagues, I want to thank you very much. When we asked for questions, there was great enthusiasm, and we received over 80 questions from all of the colleagues. And I'm going to give also opportunity to you now in the room and also online to ask further questions if you need to. But I will give a high-level response to the questions. And so what we did is we took those roughly 80 questions, and we grouped them into themes. And so these are the 6 themes that we had coming out of those 80 questions. As we've had at the previous staff assemblies, the first one on salary competitiveness and the 13 check was the most popular, I should say, in terms of questions. I think of the 80, maybe 10 people asked that particular question. And I know that the team has responded previously on this particular matter, but I would like to summarize, but I'm also going to give an opportunity to Prof. Nico. In fact, Prof. Nico, as you can see, even according to the 6 themes, the majority of issues here are all within the People, Culture, Transformation Responsibility Center. Now, I think they're sending a message in terms of what they would like to see changing in the institution and where we need to focus as an institution. So, colleagues, I think you know that it was probably about 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more, that the university moved to a total cost to company model. So what does a total cost to company model mean? It means that all of the components of your remuneration and benefits are all put together in the calculation. So when we do a comparison of our salaries to market, we compare the total packages. So it's not like we take just our 12 months of salary that we pay and compare it to 12 months of salary that's paid at other institutions. No, we take the entire components, all the components of salary, perks, contributions, and so forth, and we compare it to the same total package that is given at other institutions. So that is the way we do it. And we, on a continual basis, benchmark to make sure that we are on par with the market. So when people ask the question, is there going to be a 13 check? It's not like you're suddenly going to end up with 8% more, right? No, your package has already been benchmarked. And what we also allow is that you can determine whether you want to take that package in 13 equal payments or in 12 equal payments. Most people decide to take it in 12 equal payments. So that's the way we have moved past a 13 check. So effectively, your 13 check is currently already paid in the 12 checks that you get each month. So that's the model. And if you want to look at a way in which you can assist you, then you can structure it according to 13 checks. But that is the way the HR team has been looking at numeration and total cost to company. So don't in any way believe that you are getting 8% less because you're not getting a 13 check. That is not the case. Prof. Nico will go into a bit more details in terms of responding on the salary competitiveness aspect and how we will continue to benchmark and try to ensure that we are competitive as an institution in that regard. On promotion and development opportunities for staff, that is also something that we are focusing heavily on as an institution in terms of how do we develop our people, how do we create greater opportunities for them. And the HR team is currently working on a number of initiatives in that regard. Prof. Nico will share a little bit on that. Work from home and flexible working hours, I think especially since we've had an increase in cost of living, in particular around the fuel prices and so forth. I think more and more colleagues are asking these kind of questions. But we got to deal with it in a manner that is fair and consistent within the institution. But we also got to recognize that we are a residential university, meaning that our operations take place on a campus. And it is essential in service delivery for people to be on campus to deliver services. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration. So we're not saying that we are not flexible or not willing to be flexible. We have to just find the right mechanism by which we can have flexibility, but at the same time not compromise the operations of the institution. And Prof. Nico will talk a little bit about that as well. Last year, when I was going around and talking to all of you, the issue of workplace culture, staff well-being, kind of practices, sometimes even discrimination that takes place within the institution was top of the agenda. Many of you brought that up in the engagements that I had. And we've gone through a process of developing a new policy in that regard, which Prof. Nico will talk to, in terms of how, as a university, we've got to focus on moving forward in terms of improving the workplace culture and working hard at the kind of health and well-being of our people within the organization. Employee recognition and long service awards, I can share with you that there was a reformulation, or I won't say reformulation, but a new way of looking at our long service recognitions. And that was approved by Rectorate recently, and it's currently being looked at through the Finance Committee in terms of how we implement it. And Prof. Nico will talk a little bit about that as well, and how we can also enhance employee recognition, but also about some of the employee recognition initiatives that we currently have within the institution. And then educational benefits for children and staff is also something that the HR team is working on. We do understand that with the cost of education increasing at a much higher rate than inflation, that there are challenges for our staff. But we also want to make available opportunities for our staff to further develop themselves as well through opportunities of further education. And so there are some initiatives that we are currently working on. Here again, it comes back to sustainability of these kind of offerings that we can undertake as an institution. So they are currently also being looked at by the Finance Committee and by the Human Resources Committee of the university. But there again, Prof. Nico will speak to that. So I've provided a kind of high-level response. I'm going to give an opportunity to Prof. Nico to go into a little bit more detail, and then we're going to open it up for questions, further questions that you may have, to any of the RC heads on any of the areas and operations of this institution.
The questions indicate, Chair, that you've made, and the council and the university made a good decision to say we really need a chief people officer on rectorate level. I think that is confirmed. I will go through it, colleagues, and as the rector indicated, afterwards we can have follow-up questions, perhaps, and I'll start with the one on our salary competitiveness and the 13th check. The rector has clearly explained the logic of the 13th check. That is namely that cost to company includes different elements, including also the element of compensation that makes it possible for you to say, I'll structure my monthly income so that I, at the end of the year or in my birthday month, or even any month that you prefer, I can get a bonus. Now I can tell you that I started working here in 2001 and was just in time to inherit this new decision then of council that time. And I think it asks for a lot of discipline to say, I will do the structuring, and HR is assisting with it and it's available. But that brings me to the competitiveness of our cost to company. We every year very diligently look at relevant markets. We look to the industrial market and then of course to peers in the university sector, and we ensure, and earlier this week we submit to the Finance Committee again through the office of colleague Yapi Kotze and through colleague Mariam Hussein, a submission which in detail outline the comparisons. And that type of detail staff can look at if you're interested. I would invite you look at it. We look at every post level in both academic and PAS environments, and we show universities who make their figures available, compare with them as well. And I can assure you the rectorate will ask the Finance Committee about the comparison, and the Human Resources and Remuneration Committee of Council also want that assurance that we are aligned. So that one we look at very in dedicated fashion. The matter of staff career paths, we have at the university and at all universities a very clear career path for academic staff, also at our own university. There's at the moment, under the leadership of Prof. Johan Kirsten, and at request of the rector, we look again afresh at the criteria and requirements for the different academic positions. The challenge is more with our past colleagues. They are not that clear career paths, and HR is working on that. That would imply that you must say, if there is a specific job level in the past environments and a specific type of work, let's get more institutional parity on what we expect from that position, what the job descriptions are, what the competencies and capabilities are that we associate with that position, and even look also at levels, whether you can say you have within a specific level perhaps even different sub-levels. That work is ongoing and it is hard work. We don't really have good examples that spell out such a clear career path for past environments, but that we work on. In the meantime, we continue to say we have per omnes as a mechanism that can be used to assess not the person, but the level of responsibility and complexity of a specific position. And you know, we use that instrument, and the incumbent can be promoted then into the next level, should it be on a higher level. We also asked it already in the previous performance and what we then called performance management system, that during the discussion of line manager and the employer, that there's also a discussion on the career path of the person and what type of training the person should get to advance, so that we call it the personnel development plan, so that a colleague can know, I will do relevant courses that might enhance me in the specific position that I am, or it will equip me more to apply to more senior positions within the university. And this I say with hesitation. Sometimes people will also say outside the university, but of course we would like to see that it can happen inside the university. We want to retain our staff, and in fact, of all the universities, we have the highest staff retention figure, which is around about 94%. So, colleagues, the other one that is continuously being discussed is flexible working arrangements. That remains a question. Here we can say we have in place a regulation for working hours, but together with it, we also have guidelines that were developed during and after COVID, and that makes room for more flexibility. But there are specific conditions. Where flexible working arrangements are negotiated between line manager and employee, we must make sure that the nature of the work makes provision for it, that it can be done. So it's the nature of your position plays a crucial role. We must also make sure that there's business continuity. If there is going to be a negative impact on business continuity, then flexibility cannot be allowed. We also make sure that if there was made room for it, but there's clear underperformance, then the arrangement can be revoked. And we have examples of that being done. The most recent development in this regard is, colleagues, that we have a survey going on at the moment. All environments must indicate to HR what are their current arrangements within the framework of the regulation that I referred to and the guidelines. What are the current arrangements and practices, so that we get a good picture of what is going on, and then we will engage with the rectorate, general managers meeting, and broader to look at a thorough review of the current arrangements. But we want to do it in data-informed manner, And we do take into consideration, colleagues, that COVID has taught us there is flexibility possible. Depending on the nature of a person's job, you can say, please don't travel from the southern suburbs of Cape Town and spend almost 4 hours per day in the traffic. Let's arrange that there are times when you can work from home. And there's room for that. But what we discover, and that's the first assumption that I have, a premonition, that people might have the same job, but different line managers make different allowances and provisions. And I think that's a big part of the challenge. So we must look into it, and line managers must get more on the same page. So I just want to mention that. And then, colleagues, of course, you can come afterwards with follow-up questions. Then the workplace culture thing and staff well-being. Now, the surveys that we did over many years, every time indicated there are staff members who have experiences of intimidation in the workplace. Even the word bullying was used in some of the narratives that we received. And therefore we created, already last year, we developed a plan that we call the Plan for a Respectful, Safe, and Inclusive Workplace. I try to remember it with RSI. Not Republic of South Africa, RSI, Respectful, Safe, and Inclusive Workplace. And we have established an action group. We called it an action group for RSI, an action group that advances the development of a respectful, safe, and inclusive workplace. And we have in that group, from HR employment relations, we have the equality unit in it, we have our well-being office as part of it, our employment equity office is part of it, and the idea is that we really in dedicated fashion drive the process of advancing in RSI workplace that reflect the values of the institution. With regard to well-being, we just yesterday at the general managers meeting and last week at the rectorate, my colleague Catherine Kramer submitted a report, a thorough overview of where we are with regard to health and well-being at the institution, and different environments of the university then make inputs to that specific report. And I think it's a report that can even be made wider available, if I can, through the chair, mention that to Catherine. Colleagues, on this one I want to say a little more. You must know that as university we acknowledge there are challenges with regard to a respectful, safe, and inclusive workplace. In my office, even today, I engaged with a colleague who experienced it. And you can then say, yes, let's launch different actions. Let's say, go the way of mediation. HR helps in that regard. But there's also a point where we must, in the spirit of accountability, work with grievances so that there's investigation. But then the challenge is, how do we, and I don't say it in a patronizing manner, but how do we as institution then protect that colleague who submit a grievance? Because there's the fear amongst colleagues that if I report, then I might be intimidated even more. And to that, there are not easy answers, but that route is available. We even have in this university an ombud that gets appropriately involved in helping to address matters like this. But we're also doing training for line managers that also help them with the theme of how do I advance in my environment, in RSI workplace. And last, we have coaching, as you know. We have a new coaching program. University invested in it. It's a product that was developed by colleague Mariam Hussain, our chief director, together with the university's business school. So we're excited about that. And to conclude on that point, Rector, we have all these measures, but in a sense, it is also things that go to the specific human to say, I adhere to the values of the institution. One of the central values in the e-care set of values is respect. So you appeal to people, to your conscience, but we must also employ the measures that we have. We must have, indeed, invite people, encourage, but there's a point where perhaps more action is needed, and the rector, I call it Ram Jugannath's triple B theory. Let's build on what we had achieved till now, but let's do it better, and let's do it bolder. And I think here we need to reflect on how can we do it bolder. Then the recognition of colleagues and the long service awards. Now, you know you must work 25 years and then you get an amount that was established 20 years ago. The rectorate has decided that the university has approved. It will increase. Somebody like me who retires at the end of the year must declare conflict of interest, will not benefit from it. It must be budgeted for, and we know we have budget realities that the rector referred to, but hopefully from next year, people will get a higher amount, almost more than double the current amount. But then I see some of you feel, is it so small from the body language? But we also, as a rector, discussed this, that we must seek other ways also in environments, not necessarily always monetary ways, to incentivize people after 5 years or 10 years, some certification. I come from the Northern Cape, and there we speak Afrikaans in the best of ways. But just that certificate is important also for a person. In Afrikaans dan hoor jy die auntie sê vir my, Nico, kyk my kind se sertifikaat. And you see the value, it's framed, it is there. And to all of us as human beings to get some sort of certification, recognition. Where there is dignity, there's a recognition. And so that's the decision. We do have currently formal recognitions like the Chancellor's Awards, Social Impact Awards, Research Awards, Teaching and Learning Awards, and in environments, we already also have different types of awards, not all of them monetary, but some in the sense of a gift or specific certification as well. On this one, I can mention that provision had been made for performance-related bonuses as from 2027 to be paid out as from 2027, but there, of course, we need to develop, and HR is working hard, and we engaged with the rector already to say the bonuses that be paid must in the end not be elitist. It must be broader, that more staff members will benefit from it, and we're considering a tiered approach to say on different rates or grades that you have, there will be different amounts. But this is something that I can gladly say the fact of a bonus is now a decision that council had also taken, and there is budgetary provision for that. And then, colleagues, the last thing was education benefits for children of staff. In this regard, and here I don't speak about the tuition exemption of tuition fees that we have, but how do we support staff whose children are in primary school, high school? We can say that a proposal from HR had already been approved that, especially for lower income staff, that there'll be such assistance, but the implementation is dependent on whether the budget can make provision for that. So that is for us a great stride ahead. Rector, I think that's a first shot, and maybe there can be follow-up. We open, colleagues, if you can, when you pose a question, indicate who you are and perhaps also whom you address it to. I see a hand on my left.
Hi, good day. I'm Ashley. I'm from the music department. I'm not sure I must address the question, but this is just in relation to what you've mentioned now previously, Prof. Nico, with regards to the performance management and the staff bonus. Obviously, it will be paid out in 2027. I just have a question. So, according to me, so if you and your managers sit with your performance review, that is now a score that's getting discussed between the two of you. But now afterwards, that document was signed and everything, it goes to faculty, and then your score gets brought down. So how do you is that, according to me, that's unethical, because you already signed the document, and for me, it's like a waste of time sitting there discussing your performance, where your score will be brought down at the end of the day. So how do you go about that?
The process is that there is agreement on a score, and then there is a calibration process. Calibration is done at the moment differently in different environments. Some do it in a specific faculty or in a specific division. But after that calibration, there is can be an adjustment of scores, but that must then be linked to feedback again and provision of reasons why it had been either elevated or decreased. So that's the practice. If there are specific cases, then of course you can talk to the human resources practitioner to take it up further and to get further advice. Thanks, Ashwanita. Prof, please.
Hello, yes, my name is Yin J. Ma. I'm a professor of physics. I'm doing astronomy and cosmology research. And Rector just said, this question is either to Rector or to the finance operating officer. Rector just said the NSFAS, this governmental institution owns Stellenbosch University money, and it will possibly keep on owning money, but we are still keep on paying the student. So they own us, but we are still keep on paying students, so we are losing blood. My question is simple. How long this will last?
Shall we move from Nico to Nicola?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you all. So yes, NSFAS is really a very concerning context that we have to take into consideration at the moment. Perhaps just a little bit more detail. So if we say that we are owed 760 odd million rands, that is only the tuition payable to issue. In other words, the fees of the students which stays with issue. We are also owed from time to time the allowances that's due to the students. And what we are doing then is advancing those allowances. But what we have experienced is at least we still see the flow of funds for the allowances. Not on time, which means we have to carry it, which means that it has a direct impact on our cash flow. But at least on the allowances side, we're not that far behind as with the general tuition part.
Thank you,
Professor,
colleague Nicola.
Can I perhaps just add to Prof.
Leslie.
Nicola's remarks? Prof. Ma, I think the allowances are for accommodation and for food, and mostly then for students who stay privately. And this is to secure accommodation and, of course, to make sure that on a monthly basis, our students, in this case, really marginalized students, at least have the option of receiving an allowance for food. So it really is the most crucial of crucial payments for our students.
Nico,
Thank you.
if I may, my colleagues say I didn't listen carefully. So the question is also how long will it continue? So you might know that NSFAS was put under administration. And last week the High Court decided to overturn the administration and reinstate the board. The board is not fully filled, so I wouldn't say it's completely dysfunctional, but it's not completely functional either, which does not bode well for universities. So we are not expecting a huge change in the next, I would say, at least 12 months.
Thank you, colleague Nicola.
Sorry, we have a question from online. They ask, who will be driving the development of the shared monitoring and evaluation framework? And what does this mean for the transformation plan development process?
So I think, first of all, monitoring and evaluation goes beyond just transformation. So it's monitoring and evaluation of our entire operations as an institution, whether it's in teaching and learning, research and innovation, the kind of administrative processes that we have in the organization, linked to kind of measures or indicators that we have to determine whether we are performing as an institution. That is a function that currently sits in the rector's office after we've done a bit of realignment, and we are putting together a team to provide the institutional capacity to be able to deliver in having platforms, but also assisting all managers in the institution in terms of monitoring and evaluation.
And with regard to the transformation, it is then very clear that transformation in setting specific measurements will benefit from this broader M&E process, and people from the transformation division are also exactly on this point in discussion with this M&E in broader institutional M&E process. Colleague?
Yes, I just have to go back to the NSFAS issue, and it's about that, to say that it's quite admirable that the university says we will carry, but it's not sustainable. And Prof. Derres then to say that, that we wait on government and things. I don't think government has got the answer. So I do think we must become much more aggressive as University South Africa to actually see what is the options, because I think we have great minds within universities to look at what is a better model, how to better do it, but we're not doing it, and soon we will find, if we see what's happening at CPUT and at TUT, the spill over, then it leads again to a fees must fall, and we have to prepare to put different kind of things at the table, and maybe we have to tell government what the solutions are, and not the other way around. And I just feel that universities wait and wait and wait, and I could see at the portfolio committee the other day, the minister don't have the answers, because I don't think there's the political will within the ANC actually to remedy the situation.
I think your last sentence sums it up, political will. I can assure you that as University South Africa, as individual universities, we have been knocking on every single door in terms of trying to ensure that we get a solution to this massive challenge and problem that we have, which is NSFAS. But there has to be political will to get these kind of things done. And we will consider, as an institution, taking drastic action if it need be against government, if we need to. Those are the kind of things that we will do as an institution. As I always said, we will have to take actions that will ensure the sustainability of this institution.
Colleagues, when I was in Wonende Hoof het hy is Visser en hy is Maree and it is 12 o'clock at night, the prim would stand like this and say, any more questions, any more inputs? So we're at that point, Director, shall we conclude at this point? So yes.
There's one more online question. On HR's coaching program, is the program available to all post levels? And how do you obtain more details about this?
It's at the moment we extended it to from levels 1 to 4 to levels 1 to 6. And you can contact the HR practitioner in your environment to get details about that. Colleagues, we thank you for your time. We're facing challenging times, but amidst vulnerability, we get strength if we journey together. Baie dankie.